In today's data-driven world, a successful business is one that can analyze information with the intelligence to anticipate and respond to customer needs in real time. That is where Microsoft Dynamics 365 comes in. With the power of the intelligent Microsoft Cloud, it seamlessly unifies CRM and ERP capabilities, along with the productivity applications to enable you to identify and capture new opportunities. With Dynamics 365, all key parts of your business are connected. You are empowered to collaborate across geographies, have the insight to make critical decisions, take advantage of new trends, disrupt, adapt, and reimagine what's possible. Dynamics 365 enables you to transform your business for the digital age, giving you the ability to innovate quickly, move new products to market, develop meaningful relationships, and win new business virtually anytime, anywhere. With connected systems, every aspect of your sales and operations are optimized and easily controlled. So you have insight into your orders, inventory, and are able to develop, manufacture, and ship your products on time and on schedule. The pace of business is constantly changing. To anticipate your customers' needs, you need bold, innovative, integrated solutions that reinvent your products and your processes. Microsoft Dynamics 365 brings together the best of Microsoft technology, connects you to what matters, unlocks new opportunities, and moves you forward like never before.
Everyone, please welcome Mike Ehrenberg.
Good afternoon. Thanks everybody for spending the time at Ignite and for taking the time to come hear this session today. We're very, very proud of the work that we've been doing and excited about the opportunity to talk to you about it. We're going to stay true to the theme of digital transformation that you probably heard about in some of the earlier sessions today. And we're going to do that very much through the lens of Dynamics 365 for operations and finance. We have a number of great customers that are going to join us on stage and talk about their transformation journey and how Dynamics is helping them with that. As we think about digital transformation, we sort of start with the idea that every industry that we work with is in transition, is subject to disruption. If you were in James's session this morning, you heard him talk about Uber as sort of the canonical example of a company that is disrupting not just transportation, but the entire automotive industry. But the examples are everywhere. If we think about a manufacturing customer that we work with, it's a cosmetics manufacturer. Today, they virtually sell 100% of their product through beauty salons and through department stores. But as they think about a new demographic of customer, they've come to the conclusion that they need to be able to sell and deliver a significant percentage of that product through online directly themselves within the next few years in order to remain relevant and successful. If you've bought a large appliance anytime in the recent past, you've seen how quick the manufacturer is to try to get you to register for warranty, but also to sell you spare parts like filters and things like that, to sell you a maintenance package. These are two very, very different kinds of products, from beauty products to large appliances, but the situation is the same. These manufacturers are trying to build a connection, a direct digital connection with their customer so that they can understand more about the people that are buying their product, so that they can control better the way their brand is represented to their customers, and so that they can build loyalty with those customers so that when that next transaction gets done, that the loyalty is to the brand of the manufactured product, not maybe to the store where you happen to buy it. And this is a huge change for these manufacturing companies. They're dealing with putting in place business models they've never had to deal with before. Online commerce directly to customers, fulfillment directly to consumer customers. It's also a disruption for the retailer who has to figure out, how do I create the right experience in the store so that customers keep wanting to come there, right? And so we see it on both sides, and enabled by the technology, and absolutely essential to how these companies feel they need to compete going forward. If we look at financial services, you see very, very traditional banks introducing peer-to-peer payment products to compete with startup services like Venmo so that they can remain relevant and keep their customers. On the retail side, it's very, very easy to understand how retailers worry almost every day about what's Amazon going to introduce now? What change are they going to make that's going to make it harder for me to compete? One of the customers I do a lot of work with, one of their sort of significant strategic advantages that they offered their business customers was same-day delivery in urban areas. And as Amazon got closer and closer to that, they got very, very creative thinking about how were they going to respond. They actually shot a commercial about how they were going to skip right past using drones for delivery and just launch customers' orders from a catapult on the roof of their warehouse. Didn't work out real well, so they didn't run the commercial, but it's just the level to which they sort of need to think every day about how they're going to change and how they're going to be different. Maybe a little more practical example, one of the retailers that I work with a lot saw a rapid increase in the number of mobile orders they were getting. And what they further discovered is that the customers were actually virtually already at the store. They were outside, maybe at a coffee shop, getting a sandwich and ordering on their phone so that they could then just come to the online order pickup desk and get what they wanted and go out and not go through spending the time in the store. And if you think about that, this is not a web order that became a phone order. This was business that was going to go on in their store that's now transformed to a customer that wants to walk in and get out as quickly as possible. And it makes it very, very clear that the kind of experience you have to give them digitally that you used to count on getting them in the store for, but also it says it's so important that you're completely seamless between what goes on in the phone and what happens when they come in the store. Otherwise, they're going to have a bad experience, and you're going to lose that customer. And so the examples are everywhere. The use cases are all different, but the model is very much the same. It's technology change that introduces the possibility for business change. And the challengers, the disruptors, are all following a very similar model. They're building a strong digital or electronic connection to the customer. They're gathering lots of data, and they're using that data to make their own operations smarter and create better experiences for those customers. And so when we talk about businesses addressing digital transformation, it's how can they do the same thing? How can they make sure that they create the right connections with their customers, that they gather data wherever they can, and that they have the intelligence in their systems to use that data in order to create experiences to better engage their customers, to better empower their employees, to optimize everything that they do, and even in some cases transform the products and services that they bring to market. And we'll start with a number of examples, but kind of the first one that I want to look at is very close to home for us, and we've gone through our own digital transformation. This new world, and kind of enabled by our move of Dynamics to the cloud, has completely changed how we run our business and also how we drive important parts of our engineering agenda. So let's take a look at that. When we used to run and govern the Dynamics business in the on-premises world, the thing that we looked at, the metric that we always paid attention to, was sales. And if you think about sales for on-premise software, The deal frequently got done long before the software ever got deployed. Those sales were run in other systems, and kind of the only indications that we had about customer satisfaction and product quality were very indirect signals through support or feedback at events like this. With the move to Dynamics 365, that's completely changed. And so we look at 3 metrics and we measure them directly out of our service. So the first is we measure our uptime, and we measure our uptime against the service level agreements that we commit. We know at all times how the service has been performing, how it is performing, and are we delivering against the goals that we've set for ourselves. Instead of sales, we look at usage, and we measure daily active usage and monthly active usage. And we look at that, and we're looking for that usage trend to be going up and to the right. And the presumption is if that's happening, then the right things are happening, and then the revenue and the sales the revenue will follow. But the leading indicator is that we're getting more and more usage on the service. And the cool thing that we're able to do is we're looking at that usage and measuring it in our production environments, but we're also measuring it in all the implementation and test environments, so we know what's coming. So instead of before, where we kind of had a very much a trailing view of what was going on, we've got a current real-time view and one that's actually a leading view of what's coming to the service. And then the last thing is in terms of quality. We focus on, we actually ask different groups of users digitally through the service a set of questions that are aimed at determining what is typically called in the industry Net Promoter Score. Would you recommend this product to a friend? And that's sort of the kind of ultimate test of, are you satisfied? Are you getting what you expect? And so the difference that we have is, instead of a set of disconnected measures that were focused on maybe something that was really timed very, very differently from what's going on in a product right at that moment, we've got real-time signal built out of digital connections directly to our customer, and we consider it to be part of the product. We consider it to be part of the service. These are not support applications. This is part of Dynamics 365, is to give us this signal and let us get the insights about what's going on. And you can believe me, if one of these indicators is not green, we know, and we're on it right away, because it's very, very visible. It's not just a change on the business side, but it's actually a change on the engineering side. And so, coming right out of the service, we have deep and rich telemetry that tells us exactly what's going on with the service and with what our customers are seeing. And we take this telemetry stream in our cloud, and we break it up into 3 sort of very imaginatively labeled buckets: hot, warm, and cold. We'll start with hot. It means that the data's effectively real time, and we're looking at it quickly and reacting effectively in a hot way against that data. And so this is what we do to monitor the health of the service. And increasingly, we're doing the work to actually take the signals from this real-time monitoring and actually make the service self-healing, so that if something's not performing, the normal things that a support engineer would do can actually happen automatically. In addition, we have a set of warm signals, and this is what we use for diagnostics. So when somebody calls and they've got an issue, instead of having to go through a whole set of questions about what were you doing, how is your system configured, was anything out of the ordinary before this happened, we have all that information. We know what they were doing. We not only know what they were doing at the time they said they had the issue, we know what they were doing for the period of time leading up to that. We know what everybody else who's actively using the system at that time was doing. And so we have a better picture in real time as part of the system that actually lets us narrow down very, very quickly what's going on, and not only necessarily help that customer, but proactively apply remedies to fix issues across the service. And then we also have a set of data that we do more sort of processing and analysis on, that really has to do with how people are using different parts of the product, what forms are being used, which ones aren't, what reports are being used, which ones aren't, what are the top performing forms and reports, what are the ones that maybe are at the top of the concern list from a performance point of view. And we take all that data, and before we look at that, I want to introduce one other piece, which is we've built a digital online community around how we communicate with our partners and customers about things that we're thinking about doing and adding to the product, or things that they'd like us to add to the product. And that's called ideas.dynamics.com. And you can see ideas that people suggest, maybe that our developers put up there, and then the community votes on them. And so we take all of that analytical signal. So we take the analysis out of the service, as well as the collated feedback out of the ideas portal, and we bring all of that together. And our team looks at that every 2 weeks, and they're harvesting where we want to spend our engineering focus based on where the most critical need is. And this is a connection to what users really need, what the system really needs to improve at, that we've never had before. And it's really enabling us to be smarter about how we deploy our engineering resource, to be more agile in terms of how we get features to customers, and I think it's enabling us to run a service with a higher quality and also to deliver stronger results for our business. If we sort of look at what we did there to gather all of that data across everybody that's using Dynamics 365 across the planet, that's stuff that would have been very, very impractical to even try to do as recently as 5 or 6 years ago. And so the technology change is making these things possible, and that change is continuing to accelerate. And so we've, just a few metrics that we throw out here. If you sort of look at just how quickly, but by 2020, we expect augmented reality to be a part of a large number of retail scenarios. How the just explosion in products that will contain IoT sensors that will report back home what's going on in order to drive more efficient service and maintenance, and the savings that will drive. These changes are the things that are going to shape people's competitive success going forward. So what we'd really like to do now is sort of take a look at what it takes to deliver those systems. And this is one of the things that is most exciting for us, is if you just think about what it takes to deliver systems that work in this way, we really believe that Microsoft is the only company that's investing in every aspect, every dimension of what's required to deliver these transformational systems. And obviously, Dynamics 365 for the business process. You saw, if you were in James's session this morning, how important it is to still be able to understand what's going on with things like email and calendar, because so much business still happens there, and so the connection to Office 365 is huge. The Power Platform, Power BI, Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, and the Common Data Service that makes it possible for customers to build these incredible last mile solutions that are unique to them without having to write an enormous amount of code, all powered by Microsoft's planet scale cloud platform, which is really the thing that you need in order to say, I can handle this much data, I can manage it securely and with privacy, and I can honor the geographic data sovereignty requirements that I need to, depending on where I do business in the world. But we're going to focus the rest of this session specifically on Dynamics 365 and how we're driving digital transformation with that product. And one of the things that we see as we look across customers is every customer typically wants to start their transformation journey in a different place. Maybe one thing is more important for them competitively in their industry, whether it's maybe how they manage people, maybe it's something financial, maybe it's something in their retail operations. And so we've got a number of different customers that are going to join us and talk to us about their story. And in order to lead us through that conversation, please join me in welcoming Mohammed Alam on stage, our general manager.
So the digital transformation story at Microsoft's a fascinating one. I think it's even more fascinating watching that story unfold from the inside of the company as opposed to outside, which I'm sure a lot of you are going through within your own internal organizations. My belief is digital transformation in large part is enabled by technology, but there's this aspect of organizational change, business process change, the inertia that I call it, that kind of makes it a little bit harder for it to change. And I think for us, it's this trend of, Mike talked about us going into the cloud business. I kind of call it the trend of disintermediation, right? Going direct to customers, which is what Uber did, connecting drivers directly to riders, which is what Tesla did, connecting the car manufacturer directly to the purchaser, the buyer of the car, as opposed to having a dealer in the middle. For us, that journey is kind of like that, right? We used to be behind a wall of people that provided infrastructure services or the hardware, or SIs that did a lot of implementation work, and then partners and our support organizations in the middle. But being in the cloud as a service, from a business apps perspective, we have to be a lot closer to our customers, understanding what is it and how is it that you're really using the solution, and is it working as per your expectations. So let's shift gears and talk to some of our customers who will share their real-life digital transformation stories. For our first customer, I'd like to invite Chemonics onto the stage. For those that were in the James Phillip keynote in the morning, you saw me demo the talent solution that, the Dynamics 365 for Talent solution that Chemonics is using. And I also introduced the organization a little bit. Chemonics is a large global organization that focuses on driving high-impact positive social improvement in projects and initiatives around the world. Some of their projects are projects like driving agricultural sustainability in Afghanistan, driving early grade reading in Afghanistan, microfinancing in Jordan, AIDS in Uganda, as well as pension reform in Armenia. I mean, these stories are fairly phenomenal, and I think from my perspective, it almost makes me feel like the importance of what I do pales in comparison with what this organization does. So please join me in welcoming Eric Redding. Thank you, Eric. So Eric, I've already introduced the organization quite a bit, but please explain us a little bit in your terms as to what Chemonics does, what are some of the things that it's doing around the world?
Yeah. So as Mohammed said, we're a global social impact organization, and we take on some of the world's largest challenges. So we take on issues of food security or health sector reform or complicated issues that really require a whole of society solution, working across government and the private sector, and bringing a lot of people together around a particular problem that exists in society. So that means that we work on anything from food security monitoring in areas that are prone to famine, like Somalia and northern Nigeria, through issues of getting a digital payment system up and running in the Philippines, or reforming the healthcare system for delivering services for tuberculosis in Ukraine. A very, very wide variety of issues that we have to engage teams of very talented and diverse people around and stand up those teams very quickly.
Thank you, Eric. And I think from that perspective, I think as we talked about in the demo this morning, finding the right talent for the right project is extremely key. Tell us a little bit about how Dynamics 365 for Talent enabled that whole side of the people side and the talent transformation for Chemonics, as well as kind of organizationally, how do you think about talent? What are some of the trends and the changes you're seeing in this space?
Sure. There's really two things for us. One, again, because we're working on projects that are being stood up for a limited period of time, we're constantly having to put teams together around specific puzzles. And that may mean that as we go to work in a country, we may be bringing in a few experts from abroad, but we have to assemble this diverse group of talent in the country and very quickly identify who are the right people, really go out and get those experts in those scientific disciplines or those managerial disciplines, and bring them together. So recruitment is absolutely critical to us, and it needs to happen very quickly. We also need to make sure that we are able to really give those candidates a good experience as we're bringing them on board, because we're competing with others. The private sector's trying to get the same folks. Oftentimes, they have a lot of other opportunities we're competing with them against. And the other part of what is a talent puzzle for us is that as such a large organization with 5,000 people spread around 80 countries around the world, it's very hard for us to even know who's within our organization. We may have the right specialist for a particular thing that's sitting in an office in Manila that could be really, really useful to a project in Zambia, let's say. But without really understanding who everybody in our organization is, what their specific talents are and what their availability is, it's a little harder to manage our own workforce even once they're in the building.
Makes sense. Thank you, Eric. Tell us a little bit, so deploying Dynamics 365 for talent is the start of the transformation journey for you. You've got plans to deploy Dynamics 365 for finance and operations as well. So tell us about kind of the sequencing, how you're trying to get value back to the organization quicker and then kind of attack the harder problems, replacing the core as a series of steps in the future. Yeah,
so for us, we have management systems that were really built around a lack of communications. Many of the management systems were designed at a time when telex and fax was the way that you communicated with overseas field offices. So we really had to focus on our field offices being very independent and not being able to collaborate in real time. So they were asynchronous collaborations. What's happened is cloud applications have come to exist just at the time that the places that we work, the least developed countries in the world, are really coming into the cloud and the availability is there. So it's opened an enormous opportunity for us to be able to work as an organization in real time across all these countries and across all these offices. So we made the decision last year to adopt Microsoft Dynamics 365 across the whole organization, across finance, procurement, and human resources, and just as talent was coming in. So talent's been a real opportunity for us. It's also been very quick for us to get that up and running, and we've taken some advantage of some of that functionality. Now, over the next few months, we're beginning to take offices live one by one, and then our headquarters will be going live in operations and finance. So it's very exciting what we'll be able to do with that data all being in that system and being able to utilize it for a lot of the ways that integrate in across Office 365 and other things. So
excellent.
Very excited
Eric,
about
thank
that.
Thank you for the overview. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So Eric, by the way, just landed about a few hours ago specifically to talk to the audience here as well as a session tomorrow at Business Forward. So we really appreciate his commitment in really talking about the story of Chemonics as well as the story of digital transformation that they're going through. The one thing that I would like to kind of highlight in their story is the fact that they're not choosing to go through the transformation all in at the same time. They're looking to sequence things and drive value back to the business in bits and pieces where it makes sense. So they were thinking about going with finance and operations in the beginning, but then when they saw talent, it just made sense, hey, this is something we can deploy and push out to the users a whole lot quicker, and then have finance and operations come out as a second step after that. So the point around and the value that we're kind of pushing from a Dynamics 365 perspective is choose kind of what makes sense from a transformation journey perspective for you when it makes sense. You don't have to take all of it at the same time and kind of bring it as it makes sense to kind of drive the right value back to the organization. I want to bring out Eugene Shamshurian onto the stage to really complete the talent demo that we saw in the morning, where we walked through the recruiting life cycle. But I think what we want to show here in the talent demo is beyond the standard demo that we saw in the morning. What's the extensibility story with the different modular apps that we've created, as well as introduce a new app that we've also created sitting within the Dynamics 365 for Talent application. So with that, I'll invite Eugene onto the stage.
Thank you, Mohammed. So this morning in James's session, we saw how Chemonics streamlines the talent acquisition activities. My favorite part of that process is, of course, the scheduling, where we look up the people's calendars, and people don't have to spend that much time looking up somebody's calendars and waste time on that. It's done for them automatically. Also, we wanted to show in this demo a little bit more about the extensibility and the downstream processes. For example, as you remember, Cameron has this rich support network. The first day he comes on board, we can see the people who he went to school with, people who has previously worked with, and also the peers, the people who can make sure that he is productive, but they work in other departments. Also, you remember that there is a checklist that Cameron goes through when he's hired to make sure that he's productive and has a central list of activities. To make sure that Cameron is welcomed and comfortable, we have created a survey for Cameron. And this is a feature that is called Gauge. This comes with our application. And I will fulfill a survey indicating which kind of desk I prefer, and also whether I prefer to work in the well-lit conditions, etc. And also Cameron indicates that he's gluten-free, and I can relate to that. Who isn't these days? And submit these details. As Cameron is done with this activity, he can check it off and proceed to the fun part, which is selecting your computer. This is where our extensibility story comes through, because it's a Power App. It's an app that was built by users within the matter of days by using Excel-like syntax, by using things that look like formula. And this is an app that replaces a dreaded procurement form. So I will go ahead and indicate that I'm a business analyst, and I'm given the different options that my company has as standards, and I will select the new Surface laptop, and I will order it. And just like this, we make sure that Cameron is welcomed, he has a space that he prefers, we know his dietary preferences, and he also has a computer day one, and he can go into the world and provide the impact. And of course, the data from this modular app, from the Attract and Onboard app, flows nicely into our core human capital management system. This is an important back-end system that tackles such processes as talent management and trainings and benefits, things like that. And we didn't have to enter much data because it just flowed through the system. This way, we have helped Chemonics to streamline talent acquisition processes, and also we keep iterating to enhance the HR officer, recruiter, and employee experiences. We armed users with the Power Apps to leave no gap behind and to address the custom business processes and ultimately make their businesses more efficient. Thank you. And let's welcome Mohammed back on stage.
Thank you, Eugene. So I think the two things that I'd like for you to take away from this demo is, one, while we're building these modular apps for quick adoption and getting to use as quickly as possible, we know that one size isn't going to fit everybody. And that's why we're embedding the Power Apps extensibility story within the modular apps of Attract and Onboard as well, that if you need to do something and add some more capabilities or features onto it, like the demo Eugene showed with the laptop selection, you can do that in a low-code, no-code fashion through the Power Apps extensibility story. We're going to bring the same extensibility story not to just the modular apps, which is Attract and Onboard, but actually to the core HCM, as well as Dynamics 365 for finance and operations as well. So you can use Power Apps to do some lightweight extensibility instead of having to write code in the core application. So with that, we're going to move on to our second customer, which is JMT. JMT is a large engineering and design firm in the US. They're consistently ranked within the top 25 from a construction, highways, and bridges perspective. So please join me in welcoming Bill Smith. Welcome, Bill. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So Bill, we'll start off with the same question. Tell us a little bit more about JMT.
Well, JMT, we're a multidisciplined engineering, architecture, construction management, and even IT consulting firm. We're based in the Mid-Atlantic, but do business nationally. We have about 1,600 employees, and we've been growing about 10 to 20% a year consistently.
Awesome. Tell us about the digital transformation journey you're in. What drove the need for change for you guys, and how are you approaching this change within the organization?
Well, as I said, we've been growing about 10 to 20% a year, and we realized the the systems and platform and technology that had gotten us to that point wasn't going to get us to be a $500 million, $1 billion company. You know, the world has changed a lot since we implemented those systems. So we went on a journey looking at what was out there, and essentially did a search, and we liked the Microsoft story and the platform with Dynamics 365 and Microsoft 365.
Excellent. And the picture in the slide isn't one by accident. This is something that you guys have actually designed.
Yes, this is one of our core competencies is transportation engineering, and that drawing is an interchange, a highway in Maryland. And we don't do the construction, but we do the design, and I'd say it's one of our, again, core competencies, and I think from a transportation firm, we're one of the top 20 firms in the nation. Yeah,
especially in design, I think you guys rank up fairly high. So I've read your project charter. I've cheated a little bit in prep for this discussion, and JMT has done a great job defining in very simple terms kind of what they do as a business. Obviously, you can tell they're in the project services, project accounting services space, right? So they've kind of defined what they do from the perspective of win work, plan work, and manage work, right? It seems pretty simple, but if you think about the level of complexity and coordination and collaboration that's required all the way from the sales to project planning and estimation to execution to the analytics and reporting, whether it was a successful project or not, takes a whole lot of thinking and design behind it. So tell us a little bit about how do you approach it, what's kind of enabling the productivity and collaboration from a technology perspective in the solution that you're pulling together.
Well, like you said, we wanted a solution that kind of transcended all those phases of the work. And the Dynamics 365, we started with CRM sales, from leads and opportunities and contract negotiation, even developing proposals that we have to submit to our clients. But if we win those opportunities, then they become projects, and that information's not lost and it transitions into operations. I guess another part of our business model, we say, you know, we're a lot of doer sellers. I mean, we do have business development, but you know, our engineers are also involved in the whole business development and sales process. And a lot of times in the sales process, designs like you see here on the screen, we have to at least go part of the way to explain what we would do for a client to develop it. So we want to kind of capture that information and again have it through the life cycle of the project.
Makes sense. So we talked about disintermediation from a Microsoft perspective. The fact that as a cloud business now in Dynamics 365, we feel the need and the requirement for us from an engineering perspective to connect more and more with our customers as they go through the digital transformation journey. And one such program that we've landed is the Fast Track program, where our customers above a certain threshold get an engineer assigned from, get a solution architect assigned from our engineering organization to essentially chaperone through the successful journey of digital transformation. So as a customer, you can get to usage and value as quickly as possible in the cloud service. Tell us a little bit about Fast Track and how it helped you in your journey in the transformation.
Well, I'll start by saying it was very helpful. You know, although we had a clear charter of what we wanted to do, we selected a very good business partner who had the domain expertise. The whole Dynamics 365 cloud, it was just new to all of us. So therefore, it's been very valuable to utilize the Fast Track program to help us make, I'll say, design and architectural decisions. Case in point, we had been using SharePoint on-premise for many years, but we knew we wanted to use SharePoint Online, groups, those concepts were new, so that was helpful in that process. Also with projects like this, we collaborate, although internally, with a lot of other partners, whether it's sub-consultants, contractors, and we wanted to use the capabilities within that to design. So the Fast Track program helped advise us on that. And I say the last one that I'll mention that they were very helpful on is we ended up utilizing Power BI for our reporting, and we took the approach, bring your own database. And we looked at the options that were available from the entity store. But long story short is that they were very helpful on that. So again, it's been very helpful.
Makes sense. Thank you, Bill, so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Good luck in the rest of your journey.
Thanks.
So I think as you hear about these digital transformation stories, I think the programs such as Fast Track are available for our customers to use, but it's really a two-way program the way we think about it from a Microsoft perspective. One is we obviously want to provide as much guidance as possible, not because we don't believe our partners out there aren't capable of doing good implementations, or in some cases customers as well. The pace with which we're releasing innovation in the product, which is twice a year from an app perspective, and we have been in CRM for a while, and in Dynamics 365 for finance and operations since we released the cloud version, is so much faster than what it used to be that it's understandably harder for even our own internal field, let alone our partners and the customers, to keep track with what's coming next. And this is what this program's designed to do, to really help our customers and our partners get a better understanding of what's coming down the pike. So as they're looking at design decisions or implementation decisions, they know what's coming in the next update or what's coming in the update after. But that's one aspect of it, which is us pushing the information out. The other aspect is this is how we're trying to get closer to the customer to really get the feedback in terms of how is the service operating, right? Mike talked about NPS, Net Promoter Score. While we have the Net Promoter Score lit up in the application where you can give us 1 to 5 stars on how we're doing, this is how we're getting real-life feedback on not just how well we're doing, but what are the capabilities you're looking for in the solution that we should put in the next release. The pace with which we can push out an update is so fast now that any feedback we can get helps us plan the next release, and we can kind of add it in and deliver it as quickly as possible. So with that, I'll move on to our third and final customer, Creative Artists Agency, CAA. For those that don't know CAA, they're the leading agency representing some of the top athletes, sports athletes, entertainment stars, film personalities, and so forth around the world. So please join me in welcoming Andre Vargas.
Hello.
Thank
I
you for
can
coming.
myself.
So Andre,
Hello.
I think I've already introduced CAA, but I'm sure the audience would love some name dropping in terms of who your clientele are.
Gossip.
The ones that won't get you in trouble.
Yes. Well, so Creative Artists Agency is the world's leading sports and talent agency, and I could do some name dropping like Robert Downey Jr. or Jennifer Lawrence, sports people like Dwayne Wade, Cristiano Ronaldo, FC Barcelona, lots of big names.
Really? So from our perspective, CAA is all the, I think the term is A-listers. I think majority of the ones we see kind of at CAA.
Yeah, basically, I don't think anybody here could go one day without seeing a client of CAA on TV or sports or on a music tour, concert.
I was happy to see Julio Jones in your roster. I mean, Falcons are 3-0. Any Falcons fan in the audience? At least one?
A couple.
Okay,
yeah.
good. Maybe we'll go with Cowboys next time. But you guys have Tony Romo as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about your digital transformation journey, Andre. I know you guys started this journey onto the cloud a lot before a lot of companies did in the industry. So tell us about why and kind of where you are in the journey from a cloud transformation perspective.
Yeah, so we started our journey to the cloud about 3.5, 4 years ago. Our mandate was to shut down the data center within 2 years. And we started migrating every single system. We started using Office 365. And Dynamics AX actually was the last on-prem system we had. We went live with with Dynamics 365 here in February after we upgraded our system. And yeah, that was the last one. So time to celebrate, I guess.
Excellent. So tell us with that, kind of how has your journey been coming from Dynamics AX on-prem to Dynamics 365 for finance and operations on-prem, both from the perspective of, A, what was the effort and complexity in moving to the cloud, and two, I know you guys have some unique processes that you run just by the function of who you are. And in on-prem, it's typically easy to kind of build whatever you'd like from a customization perspective. But kind of what were you looking for in a cloud solution as you thought about, hey, we want to move to the cloud, and how can we enable the core set of business processes that are relevant to CAA?
Yeah. So our business is quite unique and doesn't really fit in a standard process that you might normally perceive with an ERP. So we, since the beginning in AX 2009, had to custom build our own trust accounting module. And we've had to carry our customizations through AX 2012 and now to D365 to the cloud, including historical data, because a lot of our business, we're still collecting money from 1984 because of royalties or whatever it is, so we can't just do a quick cut over. And in moving to the cloud and the company expanding globally, it's, one of the objectives was to ease the integration with new companies. So we needed a system that's adaptive to the changes that our company is going through. So moving to the cloud enables our integrations. All of our other systems are cloud-based. So living in a world of API communications really made things easy for us. And we had to build so many external little apps to integrate with AX 2012 to exist in a cloud world that now everything is in the cloud. That simplifies and reduces the amount of apps that we have to maintain.
Makes sense. And when I visited you guys in that exact building that you guys are housed in LA.
By the way, in Wikipedia, they say that you should look it up. It says that that building is called the Death Star.
Death Star, I did look it up.
However, I'm sure they missed geography, or what do you call the geometry, because it's really, the Death Star, as far as I remember, is a sphere. And our building is definitely not a sphere, so just stating up a fact.
I saw the Death Star. I was going to ask you offline what the story was, but this is a fairly iconic building. But I know when we met in that building, your CFO has been a fairly active and engaged constituent from a business transformation perspective, and has some very high expectations in terms of what level of analytics, the speed to period and close that he was looking for. So tell us a little bit about what those expectations are and how is this helping in that transformation, in that journey.
So the first thing that we're blessed to have a CFO that is very much supportive in the type of work that it takes to maintain an ERP system enterprise-wide. So it all started with our CFO in our move to the cloud, and it's for us really a business problem with technology components today rather than a technology exercise. So he's very much looking into adding easy reporting, divisional departmental reporting, revenue forecasting, and he's definitely pushing us to the limit on anything we can do with analytics.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, Andre. Appreciate you coming.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
The one thing from a Dynamics 365 perspective that we've really invested on for customers specifically that have been with us through the on-prem products in AX 2009 and 2012 is helping you upgrade to the Dynamics 365 finance and operations in the cloud. As Andre pointed out, these guys started with AX 2012. Actually, they started much before AX 2012, but they went through a bunch of different upgrades. But the aspect of taking their data, their customizations from 2012 to Dynamics 365 for finance and operation was a relatively straightforward exercise, given the tooling and the wizards that we've kind of built for customers to really migrate. With that said, I'm going to bring back Eugene onto the stage to really highlight what Andre said in the end, which is we've had systems of transactions in the past. What we didn't have and what we've left the customers to do or other partners to do is how do you really derive the insights and the analytics from it? What we've done from a Microsoft perspective is really invest and double down on really lighting up visually, as well as from a drill-through perspective, the insights that you can get to at your fingertips from Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. And Eugene's going to give you a quick demo of what we've done specifically in the CFO dashboard. Go ahead, Eugene.
Thank you, Mohammed. So in this demo, I will be playing the role of a CFO. As a chief financial officer, it's important for me to stay on top of key financial metrics. And that is easy for me because this dashboard marries the data together from about 10 different reports and lists into a single screen that provides me a different perspective because I can see all of the data together. Also provided is a trial balance snapshot that informs me about my expenses, liabilities, and assets. And there, I could drill deeper and take a look and refresh the page and take a look at the details behind it. A typical challenge that CFOs face is reporting by legal entities. And Dynamics 365 is exceptionally strong in multi-entity reporting. And we do that by providing powerful filters where we could select the legal entities that we want to run reports on. And with this solution, we can really accommodate the holding companies and multi-level reporting structures and things like that. As an important function of a CFO is the cost control. And I can do that by going to Income Statement Insights. Here, you quickly see my expenses and also the places where my company does business. For example, USMF legal entity, which is my manufacturing legal entity, does most business in taxes. But it's not just the pretty visuals. These things are interactively updated, and they help me navigate and drill down into data. For example, I remember that most of the expenses here are run in one province in Ontario, and I want to investigate further. There, I zoom in, and I see that there is an important project in Toronto where I can easily get into income statement by this region. This way, I didn't have to remember the country codes that are typically required to run such a report, the provinces, or the project ID. This way, I'm able to quickly see the overview, and I'm able to also add the next level of details, adding me that month-to-month view into the expenses. When I take a closer look, I see that the expenses there run a little bit too high, and I want to investigate further. With one simple click, I'm brought straight into the source transactions. And it's not just the GL postings, which I have to figure out how they relate to invoices and things like that. These are the invoices themselves with the corresponding lines. Here are the invoices number and the vendors. And also, I see that there is a price variance from a vendor that typically has no variance, and I want to follow up with my project manager to find the root cause of that. To do this, as a true accountant and trained accountant, I like to see the tabular data and share it. So with a few clicks, I'm able to download a CSV file that I can open in Excel and share with the project manager or email it to him. Also, okay, I'll come back. This way, we are able to see that Dynamics provides me with a rich set of analytics that marry the data together and make my job easier. They marry the data together from multiple legal entities and multiple reports and bring it into a unified workspace that provides me with an actionable insight. Thank you.
So this is an example of us bringing together the power of data in Dynamics 365, embedded Power BI that can drill back actually to the transactions, Bing Maps, as well as in-memory data analytics to really light up the insights story for businesses, right? Historically, we've been used to these projects being, hey, let's get the system implemented so we can capture the transactions, and then we'll deal with the reporting and the BI side of it as a secondary project. What we're doing within Dynamics is really lighting up these analytical workspaces out of the box, which starts with visual representation. You can kind of dig in and click in and drill through directly back to the actual transactions that are contributing to those analytics and those numbers. So this was an example in the CFO, in the financial space. We're taking the exact same concept all the way to the rest of the application. So you'll get this completely out of the box, and obviously you can continue to extend it from there as well. So this was taking a system of transaction and really maturing it to what we call a system of insight, right? So you can get some data and analytics out of it. What we're really excited about from a future perspective is taking this to really be a system of intelligence where it just doesn't give you information on what data is in there in a way you can consume. It actually tells you what you should go do next. And what I'm about to show you is directional thinking in terms of where we're taking the accounts receivable area in the financials and the cash management space. You can't really see the screen, so I'll expand it. What we're essentially doing is bringing in via machine learning a payment predictor in accounts receivable. So the accounts receivable that you have outstanding, based on machine learning and the data and the logic that's in there, it can come back and predict, hey, what's the likelihood for us receiving payment on that receivable? Right? We're going to light this up in context within Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. So as a user, you don't really need to think about or apply any logic or intelligence. As a clerk, as an AR clerk, you can actually say, hey, this looks like it's not going to come. Let me start the collection procedures now, so we have a higher chance of actually converting that into cash back at the company. We're going to do that on the payment side as well. So based on who your strategic suppliers are, if you're in a cash-constrained situation, we can kind of provide a suggestion on, hey, these are the critical vendors that you need to make sure you pay. So we're going to label this intelligent cash management, which is going to light up within the context of Dynamics 365 for finance and operation. And these types of intelligence based on machine learning and IoT is what we're going to continue to embed throughout the application. So with that, I'm not going to drain this slide, but I'm going to use this just for context setting. If you look at the 4 bars on the right side, we've really heard about the people transformation story with Chemonics on how they're using talent to really transform the way they recruit talent and manage talent. We've talked about the CFO side of transformation with Andre and the service project accounting space with JMT. We're going to quickly wrap that story up with a view into what we think from a digital transformation in retail as well as manufacturing. So to cover the retail space, I'm going to invite Mike back onto the stage to talk about our views on the digital transformation affecting the retail industry.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Mohammed. So we talked earlier in the session about a number of the things that are affecting retailers and driving their need to transform, whether it's the manufacturers who make the goods that they sell, in fact, shifting to try to go directly to the consumer themselves, whether it's the introduction of a combination of digital technologies with the physical technology in the selling process, changing demographics of customers, consumers that have done more homework before they even come into the store, and obviously the challenge of the cloud-native competitors, things like, of course, Amazon. And so what they need to do is look at digital transformation as a way that they can respond to these threats and actually thrive and succeed. And kind of we look at a number of things that we're trying to drive with the work that we do in Dynamics 365 for retail. And the first part of that is allowing them to create experiences for their customers that are seamless across online, mobile, and inside the physical store. And so that I can start looking for something online, I might check one extra detail while I'm on my phone, and when I walk in the store, I don't lose all that context. That we can bring the strengths of what makes online shopping satisfying into the physical store environment so that we all kind of get used to looking up detailed product information, comparing a couple of different models side by side, and being able to make a really informed decision when we're sitting at our PC. But then when you walk in the store, you can't necessarily get access to that same kind of information. So we built a clienteling experience into the product to really let every retail salesperson, even in some cases self-service, bring that same kind of shopping experience to the customer in the store. and at every touch point, grabbing every signal that we can and using that to just keep creating quality experiences in the store. What I want to talk about is one specific area that we're developing. We're actually working with Patagonia as a retail customer of ours to make sure that our work is grounded in reality. And consider a retailer that's maybe a global company. They have a number of distribution centers in different places, but they also have a number of retail physical stores. And in many cases, those physical stores might actually be closer to the customers that are ordering. And so when they get orders that are online or ordered in the store to be shipped, the decision of where should I ship this from, where's the smartest place for me to ship this from, is actually a pretty complex problem. Different stores, based on their size or location, may have different ability to actually ship merchandise. The distribution center, on the other hand, is set up for that. At the beginning of a season of a particular product, I want inventory on my shelves in my stores because I want customers to see it when they come in. As I get to end of season, I would rather ship product from the store to satisfy an order because I'd like to exhaust that inventory. So the rules get very, very complicated. And what we're building is a solution we call distributed order management, or DOM, that allows the retailer to configure those rules in language that the business understands, not in code, not in deep math. And we actually take the rules, we convert that to a mathematical constraint model, and then we have a solver so that we can look at sort of every batch of orders that they're processing and saying, this one should be shipped from here, these 10 should be shipped from here, these should go from the distribution center. And what that's going to allow them to do is make that choice about where's the smartest location to ship from. It'll optimize the utilization of their inventory across the entire chain. It'll improve the customer experience. Think about you order something and there's no more stock in the warehouses, but there's plenty out in the stores. In a typical online e-commerce environment, they're going to turn that order down because they think they don't have inventory. With DOM, they can understand that they do have inventory and actually pick to automatically fulfill that from a store. So we have the opportunity to improve their ability to satisfy customers. We're building in some intelligence around seasonality, sort of understanding what demand is about to come, about velocity that products are moving with, so we can make smart choices about where to make that recommendation to ship from. And there's all kinds of opportunities for us to extend this going forward. So really what this has done is sort of in that world primarily of e-commerce, where the online commerce is going, it's allowing retailers, and Patagonia is one, but we have a ton of other customers that are super interested in this as soon as we finish it, to turn their physical stores, instead of being kind of friction in competing against Amazon, turn them into an asset. So they take advantage of the inventory in those stores, their proximity to the customers, in order to give them a better experience. And so this is one area where we're doing some innovation with some neat math and some neat functionality in order to help our retail customers transform. So we'll flip back now and kind of wrap up with a look at the manufacturing side. And in order to do that, we'll bring Mohammed back out here. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. So looking at the digital transformation journey from a manufacturing perspective, you know, the typical flow that has been there from a supply chain manufacturing perspective is we've got a fairly well laid out sequence set of processes and activities that companies typically go through with the customer at the very far end. And any signals coming from the customer, either through the usage of the product, the sentiment of the product, didn't really quite make it back in time in case anything needed to be adjusted. So what's happening with the digital transformation is the customer is really becoming the center of the full supply chain life cycle. So signals coming from social sentiment, signal coming from the active usage of the product, signal coming from how the product's operating or not operating, is all coming in real time, allowing organizations to make adjustments both to the quality of the product real time, but more importantly, it's opening up new business models that companies can adopt as well, right? Moving from, hey, I'm in the business to sell products, to I'm in the business of selling products as a service, right, that you can get the right telemetry from, but kind of offer it on a subscription basis, on a usage basis to customers. And the number of companies we're seeing that's evaluating how they really transform from a business model perspective in not just being a products company, but products as a service company is phenomenal, driven by telemetry, IoT, sensors that can give them the data to really manage the product at a level that makes it efficient for them and profitable for them. That's what this combination of physical and digital is what analysts are terming as the fourth industrial revolution from a supply chain and a manufacturing perspective. This next slide is going to build up to be a fairly busy one, so I'll give you a heads up here, but it's an exciting slide, and I think it'll give you a vision that from a forward-looking perspective, us at Dynamics 365, what are we really looking at in building in context within the application to light up those intelligence scenarios, right? So you've got Dynamics 365 and the core functions here on the left, leveraging obviously the depth of investment we have as Microsoft collectively in Azure, as well as the work we do with AI, with IoT, with Cortana Analytics. We're bringing all of that together to really light up intelligent scenarios based on IoT. You can see some of the use cases like connected factory, remote asset monitoring. If you go down the list, how are we leveraging machine learning to really light up those intelligent scenarios in the app? You know, we talked about credit monitoring and collections probability. Retail products recommendation has been there for a while. If you just keep going down, the amount of innovation and things that's coming out that we as a company are directly engaged in and aren't dependent for somebody else to kind of go leverage, we're bringing that together and lighting that up natively within the Dynamics 365 applications. Intelligent analytics, I'm just going to quickly build this slide out. The intent's not to go through each of the boxes on the right, but just give you a sampling of the use cases that we are going to light up, and we're working with some of the early customers and really lighting these scenarios up and then bring it back into the product. So Azure Bot Service, from basic customer self-service, just guided learning, basic tasks. Obviously, Azure Big Data really lights this up, bringing data not just for your transactional system, other legacy systems that you may have, as well as data that sits outside of your organization as well to drive the real insights and the real actions that you're looking for. AI and cognitive services, and as well as blockchain. So really, this slide is really meant more to outline kind of the art of the possible and things that could be disruptive for you from a digital transformation perspective to give you the leg up from an organization perspective. And to bring this point home, we saved the best demo for last, so we appreciate you sticking here through till 5:15. But I'm going to invite Eugene back to the stage to show us a quick demo from an art of the possible perspective as to how are we thinking about lighting up the connected factory scenario in Dynamics AX, in Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. Eugene?
Thank you, Mohammed. So in this demo, we wanted to show you how we're not only connecting the machines to the internet through the IoT hub, but we're also meshing up data to provide meaningful and actionable insight. Here, I'm going to be playing the role of a production manager, and tomorrow is my vacation start. I come in the morning, and I take a look at this web page, and I see something interesting. Here, I can see a depiction of my production floor. As soon as we hook up a new machine, the raw sensor data comes in and the sensors light up. But typically that doesn't mean much. However, we mesh it up and enrich it with the production data. So here we can see that we have 6 active jobs, 18 scheduled ones, 23 completed, and we also have a lot of quality data coming in and other metrics. I'm seeing that machine 1225 is acting up, and I want to investigate further. So taking a closer look, I can see that this machine is manufacturing currently 4 orders, 1 is in progress, and its temperature is going all over the place, and the power consumption does the same thing, indicating potentially a serious malfunction. As a production manager, I don't want to kill the machine, and I need to have a backup plan. In Dynamics 365, we have definition of machine's capabilities and also the routing information. The routing information provides us with how efficient the machine is in running certain items and manufacturing them. That's why Dynamics is able to come up with options for me. This way, I will reroute the orders to other machines that are capable of manufacturing the same item. By default, the system tries to satisfy most orders, but I see that there's going to be some predicted scrap, and I'm not entirely comfortable with that, so I want to investigate another option. So by doing some what-if analysis. So I'm selecting another one, which is minimizing the predicted scrap. I see that the scrap is way lower. We're going to run this machine some overtime, but what I'm not happy about is that I will miss timely delivery on 4 orders. And being a customer-centric organization, I need to consider the needs of the other departments, and namely a sales department. In this way, I'm probably going to take advantage of the customer classification that we have in the system and fulfill the orders of my top customers first. So I'm going to confirm the suggestion. And as soon as I'm done, I'll take a look at the impact data and see how the orders were rerouted to other machines. What is important on this screen is that I'm also able to see which salesperson was impacted. And if they already didn't get alert, poor David will get a phone call from me, and we'll have some resetting expectations with his customers. Then I'm off to my vacation. And while I'm on the beach, like many of us, I cannot stop thinking about work. Luckily, I don't have to log in to my production system to find out what's going on with my machines. So we taught Cortana some skills through the Skills SDK so that I can ask a question about my business data. Ask Dynamics about machine 1225.
It is running order P000190, producing 5 pieces of soundbar X250. The order is for Pelican Wholesales and due for delivery on October 23, 2017.
And this is also a good excuse for me to call my buddy David and tell him about my vacation, and also that the order will not be that delayed as we initially planned. So this way, we are not only optimizing and connecting the data through the IoT hub. We are working hard on connecting this to business data and enriching and meshing the data together so that we enrich the raw sensors data into something that makes sense and provides actionable insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. So to wrap it up, I think we've gone through a ton today. Just to kind of put it in perspective, the way we're thinking about digital transformation is through the lens of pick any CXO within the organization, right? We talked about what transformation means to the chief people officer. We talked about what it means from a CFO perspective and what are we doing to enable that, those disruptions and the technological disruptions, as well as we did a quick walkthrough between retail and manufacturing. How do we enable that is through our Dynamics 365 for Finance app, our Talent app, and Retail app. And I'm not obviously intending to go through this slide in detail, but the point I want to make is digital transformation is a journey, and what we really want to be is a partner in that journey. You can start anywhere you'd like in this map and then continue to expand from there. You saw the discussion with Chemonics. They started on the people and the talent side and moving up to finance and operations, right? So it really depends on kind of where the biggest business need is for you as an organization. We provide a business app for that, for you to kind of start the journey and then continue to go on to that digital transformation roadmap with us. So how do we think about investments from a product perspective? So this is kind of the final slide, and I'll leave you with how, as an engineering organization, we're prioritizing investments within Dynamics 365. It's largely between these 6 pillars, right? So cloud scale for us is continuing to make the service more reliable, continuing to scale it even beyond where it is today, continuing to do deployments and updates from a zero downtime perspective, and I'm pleased to announce that from a platform perspective, we've achieved that here with the fall release, that you can really take in the platform update without having any downtime or near zero downtime from a business continuity perspective. On the deployment option standpoint, we as a company are going to continue to innovate, right? We've got the full cloud solution. We've got the local business data solution, which is effectively the on-prem version that gives you the choice in terms of what you would like to, what makes sense for you as an organization. But we're also going to put out the Cloud plus Edge option, which allows you to operate most of your business in the cloud, but maybe put some critical functions in an on-prem type of a setting, such as if you have connectivity loss, that function doesn't get impacted. We have that scenario enabled for retail, where the retail stores can continue to run even if they lose connectivity to the cloud. We're going to enable some more scenarios, such as in warehouse, as well as really provide a full fidelity environment or a company that you can run in on-prem in an edge scenario connected to a centralized cloud environment as well, in case you need to meet certain data residency requirements in countries that require data for that particular legal entity to stay within the borders of that company. So we'll continue to innovate in the deployment option track as well to give you the right options. Trust is a core pillar for us. ISO, SOC, GDPR is coming down in Europe in the summer, spring timeframe that we're putting in and bringing in the right options for you as a company to be able to comply. We have significant amount of localizations that we'll continue to invest in. From a rapid onboarding perspective, this is where we want to continue to make investments in making the product easier to adopt and implement. We've built some wizards, onboarding wizards and guide in the cost accounting module that we're going to continue to bring to the rest of the application. We've made some enhancements and improvements in the data management side of finance and operations as well. But this whole aspect of, in a cloud world, we want you to get to usage as quickly as possible, is a core tenet for us. And we're going to continue to put a significant amount of investment. So as soon as you start subscribing to the service, your path to getting to usage and then thereby providing value to your business is as short as possible. Experience and adaptability remains a core tenet. You saw the extensibility via Power Apps. We have extensibility within the core finance and operations app as well. In the spring timeframe, we're going to have full extensibility, which effectively we're going to roll out in fall, but hard seal the application starting the spring release, where the way you extend the application is through the extensibility points that we've provided. And what that does for you is really protect the whole update cycle for you going forward, so you can really consume and uptake any of the innovations we're putting in the product at your pace without it having to be a big upgrade project, right? So all the things we talked about, machine learning and IoT, we're going to continue to push those innovations into the core product. And if you're implemented in an extensible way, you can really uptake those updates as easily and simply as possible with doing the level of business validation that you would need to do. And then the last pillar kind of goes without saying, insights and intelligence. We looked at some of the analytical workspaces on the CFO dashboard. We looked at some of the art of the possible scenarios that we're lighting up with machine learning and IoT, and that's going to continue to be a core area of investment for us going forward. With that, couple of URLs for you to keep in mind. We continuously update our roadmap in roadmap.dynamics.com, as well as if there are ideas and scenarios and capabilities that you would like in the product, I'll put in a plug for ideas.dynamics.com. From an engineering organization perspective, we really have a bi-weekly rhythm to look at any ideas that have been submitted, to factor that into our release planning for the next update. Obviously, the higher the number of votes it has, the higher propensity for us to kind of adopt it into the product. So if you have any features or requests or things that you would like for us to consider, please go to that site. And then finally, like James pointed out in his session up in the morning, no app is perfect, right? There's certain things that we probably won't have out-of-the-box native in the application. For that, we have AppSource, where we have our ISVs that have put in a ton of different solutions that you can leverage, and kind of, instead of having to customize and extend that, leverage the ISV solutions to round out your end solution. Tomorrow, we've got a lot of sessions that go deeper into Dynamics 365 for finance and operations, starting with the morning session that kind of gives you a deeper view into our fall roadmap, as well as what we're thinking about next year. You'll hear the same in the retail session, in the talent session, so I highly encourage you guys to attend that as much as possible. And then finally, please don't forget to evaluate the session. Thank you so much.